Do you remember Turbo Prop Racing or Rapid Racer? This cheeky little PS1 boat racing game came with a huge amount of character and was considered incredibly fun by a lot of people. Within no time at all, the game gets properly chaotic, requiring an insane amount of skill that only the best and most coolest of cats could really achieve. In this video, we're going to take a look at all of the wacky and awesome things that made Turbo Prop Racing or Rapid Racer such a fun game to play. We'll also take a look at why the player needed insane skills and, really, a whole ton of luck to truly complete the game. I really hope you enjoy this one. The game was developed and published by Sony themselves and released as Rapid Racer in the UK and Europe in 1997. Then it was released as Turbo Prop Racing in North America in 1998. Now, if you're from the UK or Europe, you're probably thinking at this point, up yours America, we finally got a game before you. But on this occasion, that's not actually a good thing, because unlike the game we ended up with in Europe, the North American release is actually a finished product. Before we get into how, let's discuss what the player is actually supposed to do to win the game, whilst of course facing all the many perils that make this game so dang tough. There are two game modes for the player to choose from when they first start: single race and time trial. Single race is really where all the action is at this point, and in order to progress, the player needs to win in every single race. There are 6 courses to race through, and once you, the awesome player, has finished in first place in all of them, back you go, except this time you'll need to win them all at night. Once you have beaten them all again at night time, back you go again one final time, but now the courses have been mirrored. This is particularly disorientating because if you've spent loads of time grinding through the courses whilst they are, the right way round, racing through them whilst they're all back to front can make the player feel a bit topsy-turvy. Now, once a set of levels has been completed, the player can play through them all over again, except this time in Championship mode. Championship mode, as I'm guessing you can imagine, is a tournament where you race in all 6 of the levels using the same boats whilst competing against the leaderboard. If the player is skilled, or lucky enough even, to finish first, they'll get treated to an awesome FMV featuring real speedboats, and also a shiny trophy to show off to, well, no one really, because it disappears once you've clicked off of it. Anyway, that all sounds pretty standard, so why do I think that you, the awesome player, will need insane skills to complete this game? Well, after the first level, the game just transforms into sheer unpredictable chaos. The boats themselves are quite tricky to control, and they do take a while to learn how to truly master. On some of the more unstable areas in the levels, the ride can get, well, pretty bumpy to say the least, and this has a huge impact on how the boats handle. If bumpiness wasn't enough to make the player feel like the game was borderline unplayable, then the incredible narrow lanes featured in most of the levels probably will. More often than not, the player will need to overtake other boats in the tightest of spaces whilst trying to control what feels like a Rottweiler that wants to run away but doesn't know which direction it actually wants to run in. Each level has a series of checkpoints which need to be reached before this timer runs out. The timer makes racing so much more intense in this game, and sometimes you just won't make it to the next checkpoint in time. But other times you might just about make it. Although complete control of the boat is lost when the timer reaches 0, the game won't actually end until the boat loses all of its power. This allows a vital couple of seconds for you, the awesome player, to see what's next. Speaking of which, remember to give the subscribe button a tap if you're enjoying this video and you want to see more nostalgic content just like this. Now, amongst all of the chaos that I've been talking to you about, there is, well, actually more chaos, but this time in the form of collectibles. These green tokens give the player a turbo boost, which honestly can go one way or another. If they're used in a nice open bit of water, they'll do wonders for your race, but if they're used anywhere else, you take your life in your hands. These red spiky boys need to be avoided because they cancel out those wonderful green turbo tokens that you've collected. Collecting 3 of these will give you a temporary slowdown, which is exactly what you need when you're on a stupidly intense clock. Thank goodness for these blue tokens when they come though, because they actually freeze the stupidly intense timer for a vital few seconds. Now, here's a question. What do you think these yellow tokens are used for when they're collected? If you played the North American version of the game, aka Turbo Prop Racing, you will most likely know that collecting 5 of these and finishing in first place allows the player to upgrade their current boat, or even better, allows them to unlock a shiny new boat, like the Black Widow. If you played the European version, aka Rapid Racer, you'd be forgiven for not knowing this because unlike the North American version, the European version doesn't actually tell the player what they're used for, like anywhere in the game. Seriously. When I used to play this as a kid, I thought they had something to do with the turbo, like, I don't know, collecting some backup or secondary boost, but no, they're used for collecting upgrades. There's a few other missing bits just like this, and really, this is why I believe the North American version is better than the European version. Once a race is finished in the American version, a screen pops up showing the player all of their stats. They can see everything from their top speed, their best lap, and how many turbos they used. But in the European version, this screen simply hasn't been added. The level just ends once the race is done. Also, this speedometer was never in the European version either. It was only added for the American release. One thing I could never quite get my head around though was why the developers opted to use kilometers per hour rather than miles per hour, given what part of the world this version was being released in. Weird. Now, one thing that I will say is better in the European version is the soundtrack, particularly the music that was used in the menus. Turning the game on and hearing really was a treat. The full track is a light, atmospheric drum and bass number, and it really does add a certain depth to the player's experience. Despite what country you're from or what version of the game you played, Turbo Prop Racing or Rapid Racer will always go down as an absolute underrated classic in my humble opinion. Whether you're playing any of the single player modes or with friends on multiplayer, its chaotic high octane gameplay is really what gives the game its charm. Also, could we just take a minute to appreciate just how gorgeous these graphics are? The shadow effects on the boats are truly spectacular, and to clarify why, this sort of effect didn't really become common practice until the PS3 or Xbox 360 era due to hardware limitations. The finer details added to each of the boat's themes really do make them all individually stand out, and do you know what? That's very fitting because in the world of racing games, none stand out just like Turbo Prop Racing Rapid Racer. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and please subscribe if you want to see more nostalgic content like this. If you have any games that you want me to make a video of, mention them in the comments and I'll add them to my list. Thanks again, hopefully see you in the next video.